Okay, so today we're going to, on Friday we looked at different geometry terms and kind of some introduction to geometry. Today we are going to be doing constructions of some of these geometric figures. So our lesson is called Basic Constructions. And to start, we have a few vocabulary words that you guys need to know, and then some steps to drawing these constructions. So anytime during the video, you might need to pause so that everybody has a chance to write. The first definition that we are going to use is of a straight edge. The official definition of a straight edge is a ruler with no markings, meaning we're not using the ruler to measure certain distances on it. So even though you guys are going to be using a ruler, you cannot use the markings as measurement. We're just using the straight edge to make a straight line. Okay? If you don't ever have a ruler, you can use the side of your binder as a straight edge. You can use the side of your notebook as a straight edge. You can even use the side of your phone as a straight edge. But today you guys are going to have rulers to work with. The next definition you need to know is what is called a compass. A compass is a geometric tool used to draw circles, and we also use it to draw parts of circles, which are called arcs. So arcs are parts of a circle but not a complete circle. So everybody should get their own compass, which looks like this. So on the compass you have a point, which is going to always end up being the center of our circle, and the pencil, which is what we're going to use to draw. Last definition you are going to need to know is what is a construction. So that's what we're doing today. A construction is a geometric figure that is drawn using a straight edge and a compass. So those are the only two tools we're going to need today to make some of these constructions that we're going to do. So now that you have the definitions, let's actually start with constructing congruent segments. So I have on these steps labels of different points. These are just generic labels. Usually you will use whatever labels the problem gives you. So I say have A, B, C, and D for a lot of these because that's what the example after each of the steps uses. But you can use whatever labels you want or whatever the problem gives you. So the first thing we're going to do is be constructing congruent segments. So congruent segments, I'm going to give you a segment and I want you to copy it. That's what we're doing here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a ray with an endpoint called C. Like I said, you can use whatever you want or whatever the problem gives you. So if the problem gives you a specific one, you need to label it that. So we're just going to draw a ray using our straight edge. And then on the given segment, which in our case is going to be AB, and you will see it in a second, you're going to open the compass to the length of AB. So we're just going to open it so it's the same length as AB. And then what we're going to do is with the same compass setting, you're going to put the compass on point C. You're going to draw an arc that intersects the ray, and that intersection point is going to be called, we're going to call it D. So write down the steps, and then we will do a problem using the steps. Okay, so here is your first example. And I will leave the steps up so that we can follow them. So what I want you guys to do, what is given to you is segment AB, so that's the given segment. So on your notes, just draw a segment and label each point AB. Everybody's does not have to be the same length for the purpose of the example. And what we're going to do is we are going to construct a segment CD so that CD, or segment CD, is congruent, or the same length, as segment AB. So basically what we want to do is copy this segment to a new segment called CD, and we want to make sure that it has the same length as AB. So our first step was to draw a ray with endpoint C, and I call it C because they tell me the segment is to be named CD. So I'm going to draw a point. I'm going to label that point C, and then I'm going to use my straight edge to draw a ray. And the length of your ray does not matter. Put an arrow on it. The length of the ray doesn't matter because that is not our segment. We're going to use the compass to copy the segment. So far you should have the given AB, which you were drawing yourself. And then we did the first step, which was to draw a ray with endpoint C. So our next step is to open the compass to the length of AB. So you're going to take your compass and you're going to open it wide enough so that the pointy end will touch A and the pencil end touches B. So it should be going from points A to points B so that it's the same length as segment AB. You want to try and get exactly in the middle of each point. Okay? So then our next step is to, with the same compass setting, so that means do not change the length of the compass, you are going to put the compass on point C. So we're going to put the pointy end on C. And then we're going to draw an arc that intersects the ray. So holding it steady, we're going to draw an arc that intersects our ray. So because my compass went from A to B exactly, if I start on point C and draw an arc, it's going to also be the same length as AB. So I label that point of intersection D. And then I can say that CD, or segment CD, is congruent to segment AB. So that's how we would construct congruent segments. If I asked you to construct a segment that was twice as long as AB, I would construct one segment that was the same length as AB, and then I would take my compass on the same setting, put it on the endpoint D, and construct a second arc that would make my segment twice as long as AB. So you will be asked some questions that ask you to make a segment that is twice as long. So you would do the same process twice. But that is one congruent segment. So CD is congruent to AB. The second construction we are going to do is we are going to construct congruent angles. Now this has a little bit more steps, so make sure that you pause the video so you have enough time. So this time I'm going to give you an angle, and you're going to create an angle that is congruent to the given one. So step one. So this time we're constructing congruent angles. So we are going to start the same thing. We're going to draw a ray, and we're this time going to call it endpoint S because that is what the specific problem is going to ask for. Remember, you call it whatever the problem wants you to. And then with your compass point on vertex A, you are going to draw an arc that intersects the sides of A. So you want to make sure that our arc intersects both sides of the angle. And then we're going to label those points of intersection, in this case B and C. So then just like with the constructing congruent segments, with the same compass setting, we're going to put that compass on point S, and we're going to draw an arc, and label the point of intersection with the ray as R. So we're going to draw an arc and then label the point of intersection. Then, so that gives us a congruent segment of the bottom of the angle. So then we're going to open the compass to the length BC, so going from the opening of the original angle. Keeping the compass on the same setting, we're going to put the compass on point R, so that's the point that we just made. And we're going to draw an arc to locate a point called T. So we are going to create 2 points actually. And then the last thing we're going to do is draw ray ST so that we can make an angle that is the same opening as the original. So let's actually do one of these. So what I want you guys to do, make sure you have all of the steps written because I'm not going to be able to put them all up. So here is example 2. You are given an angle and we're going to call it angle A. So angle A is given. So what I want you guys to do right now is with your straight edge, draw me an acute angle. So some acute angle using your straight edge, label it angle A. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to construct an angle S so that the angle of S is congruent to angle A. So let's do this. So our first step is to draw a ray with endpoint S. So let's draw an endpoint. Let's label it S. And I'm going to use my straight edge to draw a ray. Make sure you're making your rays long enough so that our arc actually intersects our ray. So you made your own given angle. Normally in a problem it will be given to you. And then we did our first step, which was to draw a ray and label the endpoint S. Our second step is to put our compass on the vertex of A and then draw an arc that intersects both lines on the angle. So it doesn't have to be super wide, and it actually doesn't matter how wide you open your compass. So I'm going to leave mine, let's make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to put my compass on endpoint A, and I'm going to draw an arc. Make sure you hold it. I'm going to draw an arc that intersects both lines of A. Okay, so both sides of A are intersected by that arc. And then what I'm going to do is label those points of intersection B and C. So let's label this one B. Let's label this one C. And that's because we're going to open the compass to those later. So without changing my compass, so the same setting as I made that arc, I'm going to put my compass on the point S, and I'm going to make an arc over my ray of S. Okay. So I used the exact same setting that I had just used here, and then I brought it down here and drew an arc on my ray that I made myself. We are going to label that point R, but like I said, you can label it whatever you want. So now we have segment SR, and it's actually congruent to segment AB or segment AC because we just did congruent segments a few minutes ago. So I have the bottom part of my angle is congruent. So the last thing I need to do is make sure that I can draw a second ray so that the openings are congruent. So I'm going to take my compass, and this time I'm going to make it so that its distance goes from point B to point C. So let's get it from point B to point C. So now my compass is goes from point B to point C. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the compass on point R and draw an arc from point R. Okay, so my arc is going like this. Now, on mine, they're supposed to intersect, so I obviously didn't make that first one big enough. So I'm going to continue it on so that they intersect. There we go. And now we have a point of intersection. So make sure that your arc is long enough the first time. And then when we make our second one, they should intersect. So we're going to call that intersection right here point T. And my last step is to draw ray ST. So I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to put it through point S and point T and draw a ray through both of those. So now my angle S and my angle A are congruent. Which you could use a protractor to measure the angles and they will be exactly the same. So that's what you guys are doing today. You are constructing congruent segments and congruent angles. So on the worksheet that you're going to get, not all the problems you will be able to do, but you will be able to do any of the ones that ask you to construct congruent angles or congruent segments. You should also be able to construct angles or segments that are twice as big as the given angle. So if you want to do a segment or an angle that is twice as big, you would do the same process but twice. So I want to make sure that you guys try those out as well.